Shalom and welcome to Yeshiva B'nai Noach. I'm Tom Averna. Today, I want to share with you the importance of Torah study for both Jew and Gentile alike. Now, I've entitled the presentation, "An Aliyah a Day Keeps the Yetzer Hara Away, Foundations and Importance of Torah Study." But before we begin, a few thoughts. I want to talk about the word Gentile. Some may hear that word and think it's pejorative, a word that somehow implies an inferior label. Yes, there are those that use it that way, but that is not the correct definition, nor is it the way that I use the term. It comes from the Latin gentilius, meaning belonging to the same family, people, or nation. It was the Latin word used to translate the word goyim from the Hebrew or ethne from the Greek, which both mean the same thing. Torah uses the term goy at times to refer to Israel, but its modern context is as a word to distinguish Israel from other nations. This is not done, or at least it shouldn't be done, to imply anything negative. No more than in English, we might say, I'm from America, not from any other nation. So when I use the term in this study, it's used to include any non-Jew, but more specifically, it includes Noahides and Christians who are interested in learning more about their Jewish roots. Even more specifically, I would use the term Jewish and Gentile to refer to distinct roles we play as part of one people who worship one God. Now, I look forward to the day, I hope you do too, when we see ourselves as all one people with different roles to play in our singular society and our singular world. The next point I want to make is about Gentiles studying Torah. Now, there's many teachings out there that say this and that about the topic. This is good, this is bad, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Everyone has their opinion, and most try and base it on some Torah foundation. And I'm not here to say that one is more right than another, but I want to make it clear what I believe and why. So if you have a teacher who teaches something different, then that's what you should follow. Personally, I think it's a moot point as to whether or not a Gentile should study Torah. It's like saying, if you already own a gun, should you know how to use it? That is vastly different than the question of whether or not you should own a gun in the first place. One of the miracles of Christianity, and even the great Maimonides points this out, is that even though the early church had a generally well-established dislike for Jews and Judaism, they chose to include the Hebrew Bible pretty much as it was in their Christian book. Now, this had to be God's doing because it doesn't make any sense otherwise. I use the example, and again, this is not in any way a negative example, but I use the example of the Latter-day Saints, who essentially wrote their own Bible in the Book of Mormon. And whatever their intention was, I think it made very logical sense. They believed the Bible that was generally in use by Christians and is in use today was corrupted, and so they wrote their own. This is what Christianity should have done based on what they believed. But instead, thanks to Christianity and thanks to God who orchestrated the whole thing, the entire world was exposed to Jewish teachings. This is the miracle. So Gentiles already own the Torah. They already have the Torah in their possession. So for me, the question is, should Gentiles be taught the Jewish understanding of this foundational Jewish book, or be left to flounder through the many misteachings about it that are out there? The answer seems obvious to me. Are there portions of the book a Gentile shouldn't study? I say if it is under the guidance of a Torah-observant Jew, of course not, or through observant Jewish commentaries. Torah was written to be transformative for both Jew and Gentile alike. My only caution is that there are sections that may not pertain to Gentiles, just as there are sections that pertain to Jews from Aaron's family, and those that pertain to Jews from Levi's family, and those that pertain to all Israel. A Gentile must understand that this book was written primarily as a law book or an instruction book for a specific Goyim, Israel, to do a specific task. So can a person from another nation study the Constitution of the United States and learn from it? Of course they can. But he should know that this is not the Constitution of his country. Although he might find some interesting things he might want to try and implement in his own country, there are two separate laws in play. Now, in the Messianic age, I believe there will be one law for all, and that will actually be the Noahide laws. But there will still be different roles a group of people might play, and therefore they would have different instructions, different laws, different rules. Israel's role was already given to it, that of priest and teacher, and as such, they have to learn different things that apply to their role. A person may find a law book interesting and read it, but that doesn't make them a lawyer. To do that, they need to dedicate themselves to be a specific set of instructions and teachers and textbooks to have those at their disposal and to use them and study them. This is the difference in my mind between how a Gentile might study Torah and how a Jew might. Both should study and learn what is necessary in their own lives to grow. So this is my point. What I want to accomplish in this presentation is to take a look at four basic things here at the beginning. The divine commandment to study Torah, the study of Torah as a remedy against the Yetzer Hara, as well as the value and virtue of consistent learning. And we'll take a look also at practical guidance given to us from the sages. Now, we have a divine command to study Torah. That should be without question. And again, I believe that applies to everyone. So we're commanded to study. We'll look at some foundational verses from Joshua 1:8, Deuteronomy 6:7, that talk about a daily commitment to study Torah as a lifelong obligation. The commandment to study Torah is rooted in key biblical sources, such as the mitzvah indicated in Deuteronomy 31:12 through 13, which commands Israel to gather and learn the teachings, and in Exodus 24:12, where God calls Moses to receive the tablets. The Torah study commandment is seen as an essential daily spiritual practice, vital for moral and religious guidance as outlined in traditional Jewish sources. This foundational obligation underpins all Jewish learning as well as practice. So we're commanded to do a few things. We're commanded to teach Torah as well as to meditate on Torah. Joshua 1:8 emphasizes meditation, meditating on the Torah day and night, promising success and prosperity. Quote, "Let not this book of the teaching cease from your lips, but recite it day and night so that you may observe faithfully all that is written in it. Only then will you prosper in your undertakings, and only then will you be successful," unquote. While Deuteronomy 6:7 emphasizes the daily teaching of Torah to children and its constant presence in our conversation. Quote, "You are to teach them to your children, and you are to discuss them when you sit at home, when you journey on the road, when you go to sleep, and when you rise." This is part of the Shema, and it's considered the most important prayer in Judaism, and teaching Torah is at its heart. These verses form the cornerstone for the daily study practice, illustrating that Torah study is crucial for spiritual success and continuity of Jewish tradition across all generations. So the question is, how do we do this? How often do we study Torah? Jewish tradition emphasizes Torah study as a lifelong, daily commitment. Capturing the essence of this in Mishnah Pirkei Avot 1, verse 15, which states that a person should dedicate set times daily to Torah learning. Lifelong commitment ensures continual spiritual growth and the internalization of values. Modern studies show that consistency in such practices fosters discipline and community connection, reinforcing religious identity throughout all of life stages. Torah study can be used for many things, among them healing and growth. So in the Talmud, we will find teachings about the power of Torah study, as well as rabbinic commentaries on spiritual self-discipline, stories illustrating the role of Torah in overcoming negative impulses. Torah study for protection and character development can be found in Kiddushim 30b of the Talmud, and it highlights that the study of Torah protects one from sinful desires, emphasizing Torah's power in diminishing the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, with quotes like, "Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your kinswoman," Proverbs 7:4, which indicates that one should be as knowledgeable in the Torah as in the identity of his sister, unquote. Or, quote, "The sages taught, and you shall place these words of mine in your hearts," Deuteronomy 11:18. Read this as though it stated Sam Tam, a perfect elixir. The Torah is compared to an elixir of life, unquote. And also, quote, "So too the Holy One, blessed be he, said to Israel, my children, I created an evil inclination, which is the wound, and I created Torah as its antidote." If you're engaged in Torah study, you'll not be given over into the hand of the evil inclination, as it is stated, quote, "If you do well, shall it not be lifted up," Genesis 4:7. One who engages in Torah study lifts himself above the evil inclination, unquote. So the Talmud clearly teaches that constant engagement in study serves as a spiritual shield that refines character and redirects impulses towards holiness, emphasizing the transformative psychological and ethical impact of consistent Torah learning. Rabbinic sources are in agreement on the power of Torah study, including the Rambam, Maimonides, and the Chofetz Chaim. They both emphasize Torah study as core to cultivating self-discipline and conquering the Yetzer Hara. Their writings outline the psychological mechanisms by which Torah study enhances focus, moral clarity, and restraint, fostering spiritual resilience and ethical living. The Chofetz Chaim especially deals with the idea of clear speech, of good speech, of not Lashon Hara, but Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue. So commentaries elaborate that this practice of Torah study is not only intellectual, but also deeply formative of character. Another great way to enrich your Torah study is to look at stories of others, of rabbis from the past, contemporary rabbis, or other people who have stories of how working with and learning Torah have enriched their lives. And there are many places where you can find these kind of stories that recount how Torah study enabled sages and individuals to resist temptation and negative impulses. I mean, examples are varied, but one of them could be Tales of Rabbi Akiva, certainly a good example of this, and others whose devotion to learning transformed their lives. So these narratives illustrate the lived experience and practical impact of Torah as a spiritual tool, offering inspiration and models for overcoming personal challenges. You can find books on really almost any famous rabbi, and somewhere in there you're going to see something about Torah study and how important it is. One example is certainly Rabbi Akiva, who was transformed from an uneducated shepherd to one of the greatest rabbis through a constant 24-year devotion and attention to Torah study, which he began at age 40. So age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what age you are. You can start your Torah study. I started at 60. So those things, if age is a barrier to you, don't let it be. It shouldn't be. But the bottom line is you've got to study, and the inspiration to do that often comes from looking at the lives of others. So that's another way, another aspect to add to your Torah study. Pirkei Avot stresses the importance of continuous study. Pirkei Avot is the ethics of the fathers, the book that begins the Mishnah, the Talmud. Pirkei Avot extols continuous study as vital for spiritual success, with teachings such as, quote, turn it and turn it, for everything is in it. This emphasis on constant engagement underscores that Torah is infinite, requiring perpetual learning to uncover deeper insights, to embrace ongoing study as essential for wisdom and for righteousness. The term Aliyah denotes both a call to the Torah, which is done in a synagogue, but it's also a spiritual ascent and personal growth. And we'll talk about what this means in a little more detail. This comes from the Hebrew verb alah, which means to go up, to ascend. Regularly having an aliyah in the synagogue to the Torah symbolizes elevation through study and connection to the divine. But also we have the ability at home or anywhere to read the specific aliyah, the specific section of the Torah portion, which is divided into 7 so that you can have one for each day. So the dual meaning of Aliyah highlights how ritual practices intertwine with internal development, fostering incremental, step-by-step spiritual breakthroughs that accumulate over time. This is one of the many advantages of studying in a community. But the beauty of studying the Torah and the Torah portion daily is even if you study alone, you can know that there's a whole world of others who are looking at and thinking about the exact same words. And for me, at any rate, this makes it kind of exciting because all of that energy of that study of these particular words, again, this is a mystical concept, but it just makes sense as they're studying, as they're thinking, as they're focusing, as they're finding revelation in each Torah portion that they're reading, and you're reading along with them in a different place, but at the same time, it's being their ideas, your ideas are all projected out into the universe for all to accumulate and to enjoy. So that many times as we study and we think about in the times of study, think about the fact that you are joining thousands and hopefully millions of people who are studying that same section of Torah at the same time. So I see that as exciting and interesting to think about and to focus on. But above all, slow and steady always wins the race. Rabbinic teachings stress the value of consistent, even small, minute amounts of daily study, reflecting the principle that regular engagement is more impactful than sporadic, large sessions. Now, this approach encourages inclusivity and sustainability in learning habits, so making Torah study accessible and practical for everyone, and supported by research showing small, consistent practices enhance retention. So again, all of this becomes very, very important as your introduction to this incredible spiritual dimension. So let's look at now some practical advice from Rambam, Maimonides, on structuring daily study, and also Talmudic approaches on balancing study with action. From Kiddushim 40b, we'll look at that, encouragement to learn with others and to seek mentorship. So first of all, we're going to look at Maimonides, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon in the 12th century. From the 12th century, he advised structuring daily Torah study to include various areas. He talked about three specific areas of study: Torah, Mishnah, and Talmud. We're just today in this video, all we're dealing with at a beginning place for most people is Torah study. Recognizing that Mishnah and Talmud are important, but the foundation of all of it is Torah. So begin there. If you have to choose one, choose Torah. But again, Maimonides wanted to see a balanced approach to knowledge as well as to practice. So his method promotes a comprehensive learning and helps maintain engagement and depth, recognizing that in the Mishnah, or in the Mishnah and the Talmud, they're all commentaries on the Torah. So all three complement each other. In Maimonides' work, the Mishnah Torah, in the section Sefer Mada, he gives a detailed outline of how one should study Torah. Practical guides based on Rambam's structure demonstrates efficacy in improving student consistency and retention of material. Keeping notes or a journal about your study can make a huge difference over time to help you remember things that you've studied. Now, you see here again, I'm not sure exactly where this comes from, but just the idea of keeping, it doesn't have to be this formal, but it could be. You can print out a batch of these, but to have some kind of way that you keep track of your daily study and the things that you find in that study. Again, however you want to organize it. Later on, I'll show you my journal and the things that I do, which you may find way too much. I've been doing it not very long, a few years, but I've developed a journal format that I keep, and once you set this format up to begin with, then it becomes much easier to do it over time. I mean, the initial time commitment is setting it up. Once it's set up, there's not that much extra time involved in doing that. But again, it can make a huge difference to help you remember the things that you've studied and the insights you receive from that study. It's like dreams. They say that, the Talmud says, an uninterpreted dream is like an unopened letter from God. But we forget our dreams because we don't really pay attention to them. We don't think they're as important as we should, perhaps. But once you start paying attention to your dreams, it's very important to keep a notebook, a journal of some sort by your bed, so that when you first wake up and you might hopefully remember your dream, you write it down, because very soon it'll be forgotten. Same with Torah study. As you're reading through, you'll have these incredible insights. I promise you will have incredible insights. But if you don't write them down, you're going to forget them. So at the very least, keep a little notebook when you're studying Torah. And anytime you get a flash of inspiration, write it down. Or whatever thoughts come into your mind, write it down, even if it seems random. At some point, you'll go back and you'll look at it and you'll say, now I understand what that means. But if you don't write it down, you can't have that going back to following up on it. So if you don't write it down, you're going to forget it. So again, I'll show you my journal. That'll be in an upcoming video, not in this one. And we'll take a look at how I use it. And hopefully it might inspire you to do something on your own, perhaps not the exact same thing, but something similar. So let's take a look at some of the other actions that are involved in Torah study. Kiddushim 40b from the Talmud stresses the importance of balancing Torah study with action. So Torah study is not just let's sit down and read a book. It is let's sit down, read and study, and see how we can incorporate what we're learning in our daily life. Kiddushim 40b says, quote, anyone who is engaged in the study of Bible and in the study of Mishnah and in the desired mode of behavior, that is, he performs labor and generally acts in an appropriate manner, will not be quick to sin, as it is stated. and a threefold cord is not quickly broken, Ecclesiastes 4:12. One who is involved in all three of these activities will not sin easily, and anyone who does not engage in the study of Bible, nor the study of Mishnah, nor the study of desired mode of behavior, is not part of society. That is, he is not considered a civilized person at all, unquote. So again, the idea that we have to put into practice the things we've learned. And those practices have to involve other people, other situations that we're in, so that not only will it help our development, but as others see us living that kind of devotion to Torah and its principles, then they're going to be more likely to say, I want what he's having. I want what she's having. So this principle underlines the integration of study with ethical behavior and community involvement. I can't stress enough the importance of mitzvahs in all of this, and that's going to come. It's not something that you have to do, even as a non-Jew. Mitzvahs are important. And it's not something that either a Jew or a non-Jew has to do as a feeling of. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. It's okay to do them because you have to do it, but at the same time, it's best to do it not because you have to do it, but because it's just a part of who you are now. It's a part of what matters in your life. So when you are involved in Torah study and you're also involved in the community, both reinforce Torah's purpose as it unfolds through lived practice, which enriches spiritual and societal well-being. There's a quote that I use out of context to some degree, but it's true. It's not good for man to be alone. Now, obviously, that was used in a specific context, but in general, it means the same thing. We are not supposed to be individuals alone. We are meant to be and created to be part of a community. And the same thing goes with Torah study. The sages emphasize the benefits of group study and mentorship, noting that learning with others fosters accountability, diverse insight, and motivation. Historically, the Chavruta system, the study partnership system, has been central to Jewish learning. Modern educational psychology confirms that collaborative learning and mentorship improve comprehension, retention, and spiritual growth. Now, if you're not in a community now and you want to find someone to study with, certainly if you're Jewish, you should go online and look for chavrutas in your area. And many of them will most likely allow non-Jews as well to join. But it gives you an opportunity, at least online, to have that connection with others in your Torah study. If you can't, that's okay. At least study. But that's always the best. If you can find one other person who will study with you, one other person who, like you, wants to expand their spiritual life, that's a wonderful thing. If you can find 2 other people, even better. If you can find 9 other people, wow, now you have a minion, and that's considered an ideal situation as a minimum. But all of that can be done online as well. It's not as good, but it is, for some of us, the only way that we can do it. Now, for Noahides specifically, you can go to places like Netiv, rather, when you say NetIV, to Netiv, Netiv, and you can Google them, look them up if you aren't familiar with them. There are many other groups out there, but they're one of the bigger ones, perhaps, that are specifically for Noahides. Then, if they have a chavruta that you can connect to, then there's something. And there are many many rabbis online who do talk about their connection to Noahides and desire to teach them. So do a search for that. I might later on talk about some of the different websites that I've found, but like I say, Nativ is certainly one of them. So if you are specifically in that Noahide camp, and I'm not going to spend time here talking about what a Noahide is, you can go to other videos on my website. I'm on my YouTube channel, and you'll find out more about the Noahide movement, which I think is a powerful and wonderful movement. But again, a Noahide, as opposed to someone who isn't a Noahide, not saying that anyone else is better or worse. It's just a different group of people who have a different set of guidelines that they are trying to live by. So something to consider. Please try and find at least one other person that you can study with. So now it's your turn. What I've tried to do in this presentation is to highlight the divine commandments of Torah study, its vital role in guarding against the Yetzer Hara by engaging in consistent learning, following rabbinic guidance, embracing the concept of Aliyah. Each individual can foster continuous personal growth and spiritual resilience. So please commit to a daily study as a transformative practice that enriches the soul and guides our action. That's what I want you to leave this with. Now, we're not done in the video, although this would be a place that you can stop if you need to stop here. Because what I want to do next is spend a little bit of time looking at some of the texts that you can use, some of the Chumashes, the Torah books that are out there with commentaries that you might find interesting. So let's take a look at that next. How to choose a Chumash. There's no right or wrong in the choices. Sometimes it's whatever happens to come your way. And we're going to talk about online sources for this as well. Artscroll.com as a website is a great place to look. They have all kinds of wonderful Judaica books, study, Torah, and Tanakh studies with commentaries in English. They also have Hebrew, but many in English. Also, you can find great books there that talk about some of the great rabbis. That's always inspirational. If you can do a study on rabbis of the past that have had an incredible influence, you'll understand why reading their stories. So lots of things you'll find on artscroll.com. So the one caution that I would have for you is if your eyesight is not as young as it used to be careful, because I've done this by accident myself. You don't want to get the student version. It's a little cheaper, but the print is a lot smaller, or sometimes it's called the personal size. You want to get the regular size books, and again, that may not matter to you. If you have excellent eyesight, then you might want to go with the smaller ones. It's nice to have something smaller to carry around with you, as opposed to the bigger books that are a lot more difficult. But be aware that that's the trade-off that's involved in that. Has to do with eyesight and what you're seeing. So let's take a look at some of the Chumashes. Chumash in Hebrew means 5. So that's another word for the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. So you might hear the word Torah used, or you might hear the word Chumash used. So the Stone Chumash, one of ArtScroll's premier books, you'll find this in many synagogues. It's the entire Torah. And now when I say the Torah, also recognize, and we're going to look at some examples here in a minute, that connected to each, and we haven't spent much time, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but connected to each of the Torah portions is a portion out of the prophets called the Haftorah. And so I think probably all Chumashes in the back of the book include the Haftorahs, the sections of the prophets for each Aliyah. Now that takes a little more time, and again, your main emphasis that I'm saying here should be Torah study to begin with. But please don't ignore the study of the prophets as well as the writings. The writings would be Psalms and Proverbs and the scrolls, etc. Those are important, but again, our focus in this video is strictly on studying Torah. But at any rate, you'll find a great translation of the Torah. You'll almost always find Rashi in its text, in the Rashi script. But generally, you'll have commentary that is in some fashion based on Rashi. You'll also have commentaries from various rabbinic commentators. You might have just general commentaries without a named commentator. This would be by the scholars who are involved in the making of the book, which is why sometimes you'll have this is the Stone edition. You might see other kinds of editions. That's who the group, if you will, the editorship. In this case, Rabbi Nosson Sherman. And the commentaries will include a wide range of commentaries in here: Talmud, Midrash, various rabbinic sources, as well as the insights of some of the contemporary commentators as well. So all of this, again, the Stone Chumash, probably a great way to start, just to begin with, to take a look at. So here's the structure of these books. So this is the Stone Chumash. This is what you'll see on the inside. And this structure is going to be the same in just about all of the Chumashes. So we'll take a look at Parsha Yitro. Now, this is Ashkenazic. So Yitro with a T here and a Parshat T here. In a Sephardic book, you'll see the T being used, and in most other books that are not specifically Ashkenazic scholarship. But just be aware that's a slight difference that you'll come through. But Yitro, of course, being Jethro. So this is the book of Jethro. So on one side of the page, and generally these are going to read like Hebrew, right to left. So this is actually this is reversed. This page would be over here, and this page here. But at any rate, so you'll have the Hebrew on one side for that section, and then the English on the other page as just the translation of everything that is in the Hebrew here. Okay. Generally, you're also going to find these two other sources in your book without a translation, although you might see some of their translation in commentary down here. But this is Onkelos and his Aramaic translation of the Torah. So it's essentially, what you see here is essentially the same thing as here, except that this is in Aramaic, whereas this is in Biblical Hebrew. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. The reason why it's the Aramaic is often desired, and even in translation, to look at along with the Hebrew, is that what Onkelos did is around the first, second century. What Onkelos did was take the Hebrew and translate it into the modern language of his day. So very often, if there's a confusion as to what a Hebrew word means, if you come over here to the Aramaic and read how he translated it, there's that. The Greek sometimes helps in the same kind of way. Those aren't included in these translations. So sometimes you can see a Greek word and it might make a little more sense of the Hebrew, although it generally doesn't always work out quite as well the same way. Down here is Rashi and Rashi's script. So these are commentaries from Rashi that cover this section of the Torah. And then finally, at the bottom of each of the pages are the various commentators, commentaries that you'll find. Some of them, like would include Rashi or Chaim. Some of them will be listed as to who the commentaries are from, Sephorno. Some of them won't have a name associated with them. Those would be essentially the editorial staff, but still rabbinic and very solid in their scholarship as a commentary on the verses. So, and we'll talk a little bit more detail later about Rashi or Chaim, some of the more well-known commentators, and what each of them brings to the table. But that's not what we're going to look at right now. So again, this is the Stone Chumash. You can get it as a single volume. You can get it as 5 volumes. Interestingly enough, I think the 5 volumes have, I was kind of disappointed in this in a way, but the 5 volumes tend to not have the exact same material. They have different commentaries in them. So I found that interesting. But, so if you get both, there's an advantage to having both. But generally speaking, again, getting them all in one, or even all in the 5 volumes, is something that you want to have. Again, as much as you definitely want to have a Hebrew Bible in your possession, Jew or non-Jew, because as hopefully many Jews who are non-Jews who are interested are going to start learning Hebrew, and you can do that on my channel here. Then you can begin to see, to look at the Hebrew and begin to recognize words and recognize verb tenses, and you can sometimes say, oh, wait, why did they translate it that way when it's this way? So that's again another topic of conversation. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Schottenstein. This is still on ArtScroll. The Schottenstein edition Interlinear Chumash. Now this is different in a couple of ways. Same format, has the Torah, has the Haftorah in it. Some of them have the Megillah, which is Ruth and Esther and the others, but it's in an interlinear translation. It's hard to read, but it's interesting to have, and I'll show you an example here in just a minute. There also will be commentaries, not quite as large an amount, but there'll also be commentaries from the rabbinic writings in this particular one by the Schottenstein group. So here's what that one looks like. Again, you can see it's pretty similar to the other in its format, except that you don't have a separate page for the English, because the English is going to be right underneath. But you still have Onkelos here in a box on the side. You still have Rashi here in a box underneath. And then you have the commentaries that are at the bottom. And sometimes at the very bottom, there will be notes and commentaries related to the commentary. But that's the structure. Again, most of the Chumashim are going to be the same. But here's the interesting thing. I just want to point this out. Again, if you're learning Hebrew, it's kind of fun to have the interlinear, because what you do, you have to read the English from right to left, and it's a challenge. But what it shows you is really the way that a Hebrew sentence is formed. Sometimes it makes perfect sense, and sometimes it doesn't. So, for instance, here, the wife of Moses, after she had been sent home, and both of her sons, of whom the name of the one was Gershom, for he had said, a stranger I was in a land that was foreign. So, but the nice thing here again, right underneath, you see the wife, Eshet, of course, Moshe, Achar, after, Shilocheia. You can look at the exact word that is being translated, and it makes it kind of nice sometimes to see Benaiah of her son. So here you see the her is in this part of the structure, and then sons and plural form. Again, it's nice to have this as you're learning Hebrew. You can kind of quickly see the vocabulary and test yourself and check yourself out. So the interlinear is nice. Again, if it's perhaps not the best way, the best introductory book to have if you're just starting out learning Torah, and especially if you're not planning to learn the Hebrew. Then I would say it's, if you've got money to burn, then spend it on the interlinears. And you can get interlinears online as well. And we might talk a little bit about that later. So kind of a nice feature. But the interlinears online won't have your commentaries here generally. Okay, so that's that. Now this one, the Millstein edition of the Chumash. I have the other two. I don't have this one. So I won't be able to talk a whole lot about it, but the oral Torah is based on the written Torah. What this is primarily is the teaching of the Talmud, the teachings of the Talmud related to each of the books, which is, again, a nice thing to have as its own commentary. Oftentimes, the other books have Talmudic citations, but this one is specifically designed to direct you to the Talmud. So in this Chumash commentary, original text of the oral Torah is included, easy to follow explanations. And here we can see what the oral Torah had to say about the Chumash verses, profoundly enriching our understanding of the Chumash itself. So this is, again, you'll see the familiar structure here. You have the Hebrew here on the opposite page, which I don't have a copy of, a piece of here, easy to see, but on the opposite page is going to be the English translation of that. You have Rashi here, you have Onkelos here, same format. But down here then you'll have the commentaries almost exclusively from the Talmud. What does the Talmud have to say about that particular verse? Haggadah here, Megillah here, Megillah here. So it's, again, it's a, if you can get both, this would be another good one to have, along with the rabbinic commentaries. So that's the advantage of the Millstein Chumashim. Now, that's on ArtScroll, and there are others on ArtScroll. I've just highlighted those three. The next website that I would recommend to you is Kehot Publications. This is a Chabad site. You're going to, just like ArtScroll, you're going to find books on all kinds of topics, including the great rabbis, including Midrash, including Talmud, including Halakha, the law. All of that is going to be up on Kehot, and this would be primarily for Chabad insights and Hasidic insights, even more generally speaking, than just Chabad. So their premier edition is this one, the Kehot Chumash. It has Rashi, and this is, I'll show you this in a minute. The Torah is included with Rashi, also Onkelos and the Haftorah, all in there, but then the commentary is primarily based on the Lubavitcher Rebbe's commentaries. Again, wonderful insights and incredible things that you can learn with just the Rebbe's commentaries by itself. So here's a look here. So you again have, and these pages are reversed, but you would have the Hebrew, Onkelos, Rashi, and commentaries below it, and then the English here. Now, what I wanted to point out, and this makes this a little difficult as your main Torah source, if you're just beginning study. What they do, which is kind of nice in some ways, is they include Rashi's commentary directly in the text. So the text itself is in the regular print, but then if there's any commentary of Rashi that's important to that text, it'll be highlighted in the bold print here. So the bold print is not part of the original Torah text. So that can be a little confusing, but just recognize that what that is, but it's well separated. It's easy to see what part is Rashi and what part is just a translation of the Torah verses. Okay, but that's a unique feature, but it also can be a little bit of a stumbler going over it. And then you have the Hasidic insights. There isn't anything on this page, but on some pages you'll just have you'll have a section called the Rebbe's Insights or something like that, where you just have the commentary of the Rebbe in there as well. Okay, Hasidic insights are generally, they can include the Rebbe's, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's insights, but generally they're just general Hasidic insights into that particular verse. All right. So next, one I want to show you again. This is from Kehot, although it's hard to find even on the Kehot website. There's a single volume that is more easy to find. What I'll show you here is the five volumes, the different 5 volumes. But the Gutnick edition is interesting in this way. It has rabbinic commentators, midrash, and Talmud commentators, all in the one volume, which I'll show you an example here in a minute. Like the others, you have Rashi and Onkelos, and you also have the Lubavitcher Rebbe's insights in here as well. So this would be, I guess, an alternative to the other one that I just showed you. And the advantage of this one is that you don't have Rashi in the text itself. So it might make it a little easier to follow and to look at. So here's again the Hebrew with the English translation. Okay. And this is just going to be a straight translation. Well, let me take it back. I guess they do actually have, even here in the quotes, these would be explanations from Rashi, even here. So rather than highlighting, they do have it in the parentheses, which are just informational pieces. So those are separate as well. But the nice thing, there's a couple of nice things I like about this. One is Torah Menachem would be the Rebbe's commentaries. But then there's also the Hasidic. You'll have a different section in some pages on the Hasidic. But I also like this, and I'm going to talk about this when we get to my journal. So we're not going to spend a lot of time right now on it. But I like it's very traditional as a way to study Torah, to study it by asking questions. What stands out to you that either doesn't make sense or that doesn't seem to flow the right way, doesn't seem to be in chronological order? What stands out to you? Ask the question and then find the answer. So they include some of the classic questions for each of these Torah verse sections. I really like having that. and then they give you the answer to those questions. And they have, as you can see here, several different people, several different commentators who answer that question. Okay. So this for me, this is why I have this set. I love having those questions as part of it. Okay. So that is that. Now, the last thing I want to do, and this has been a long video, but the nice thing about these videos is you don't have to watch it all the way through. I'll have bookmarks in different sections to take you through it so that you can see. But I want to spend a little bit of time on Sefaria.org in doing that. So let's see if I can get there by getting this out of the way and coming to here. All right, so when you first go to Sefaria.org, this will be the splash page. This is the opening page that you'll find. If you are not familiar with Sefaria, and if you are interested in learning Judaic studies, not just the Torah, and even not just the Tanakh, this is the place to come. They have the most expansive, extensive library. There are some criticisms with some of the translations, but I think the advantages far outweigh any disadvantages that might be here. So this is a place that you can come if you are on a budget, don't want any of the other books that I just showed you, but you do want to have access to a Chumash that you can read with both the Hebrew and English as well as commentaries. This is the place. But just to go a quick overview here on the opening page. So here's everything you can find on Sefaria.org. The Tanakh is the entire Hebrew Bible. The Mishnah is a portion of the Talmud. It's the first part of the Talmud. And then the Talmud includes commentaries on the Mishnah and on itself. But you have that here. And again, not everything is in English, but many of them are. And certainly in this area, almost everything is translated into English as well. Then you have the stories. These are wonderful additions to look at, to just hear some of the unusual stories, the parables, all of the things that have come out of Torah, and those are in these texts here as well. If you're interested in the 613 laws, here are various sources for the halacha, how to study them. If you're interested in mystical Judaism, many of the Kabbalistic texts, and this is one of the few places you'll find them, translated into English, are here. Again, not everything in English, but many things are translated into English. They also have other languages too. I'm assuming I'm talking to a primarily English audience, but recognize that if you speak other languages, you can also find some texts in those as well. Prayer books, prayers, the Siddur, Haggadah, all of that also available here. Jewish thought, looking at different rabbis from the past, different philosophies, different topics. All of that is here. Other commentaries here to the Mishnah, the Tosefta commentaries. You have Hasidic thought in here. You have Musar, which is character development. Books and writings are all here. References, dictionaries, grammar works, encyclopedias, all of that in one source, Sefaria.org. Can't recommend it enough to you. Now, if you're coming here to do your Torah study, to your Aliyah study, another nice thing is they will take you directly to, so when I'm doing this video, the weekly Torah portion is Teruma. So they'll take you directly to this week's Torah portion, okay? And we'll go there in just a minute. But you can also get to the Haftorah portion. And also, if you are trying to study the Talmud on a daily basis, There's a procedure, or there's a structure for learning that, for doing that as well. So that's here on here as well. So let's go to the Torah portion for Teruma. So when you click there, it'll bring up the Torah. And so you again have Hebrew with English right below it in this case. Okay. So you can easily, this works kind of nice like the interlinear, because it's close enough that you can kind of see the connections to the words that are in the Hebrew and in the translation. So this is the basic structure of it. Now, you can do several things with this script. First of all, you can, if you click on any verse, just click here, a screen will pop up on the right-hand side. So the first thing that you can do is you can change the translation. Now I have the Mitsuda publication translation up here, but they have others. So you can go here, and the nice thing is you can see that verse in all of the other translations. So if you want to see what other translations are doing in terms of translating a particular word, you can do it this way quickly and easily. But also, you can decide, okay, maybe I don't like the structure of this. It doesn't speak to me as well as, so for instance, the contemporary Torah from the JPS. Okay, maybe I like seeing the Tetragrammaton rather than seeing Adonai in its place. So you can choose that structure. Again, you have all these different translations that you can go to and look at and see different ways that a verse might be translated, or choose a translation that in general works for you to do. So that's translations. Now, here's the heart of it, and that is the commentaries. You have all of the major commentaries right here. Not all of them are in English, but if they are in English, you'll see this EN mark here. So Rashi almost entirely, well, yeah, entirely, I believe, is in English, the translation. So you can click on, and this gives you a brief introduction to each of these commentators, a little bit about them. But if you click on Rashi while you're on this verse, it will show you the 4 things that Rashi has to say about this verse. So you can read through that. And if one strikes you, and you don't want to forget it, copy and paste it into your journal. If you keep a journal online, then that makes it's nice to be able to have that here. And I use this all the time on my journal, which I'll show you later. So that's available. So you have all of these commentaries right here that, again, in a Chumash you would get on the bottom section of the translation. So it's nice to have it right here, easy to get to. So Rashi, Ibn Ezra, Nachmanides that I like, although a lot of his aren't in English, but there are several that are. He does a lot more of the mystical. Sforno, etc. Again, I'll go over these in a little more detail later in another video. But so that's all available here in Sefaria. In addition to the regular commentaries, you can also, remember I said the Talmud itself has references. So rather than having to buy the Millstein edition of the Chumash, you can just come here and see what they have to say about this verse. Now recognize that as you do this, this commentary may not be strictly about this verse, but there's something in here. I'm not going to spend too much time with it right now, but there's something in here that has, well, for instance, right here, that is connected to this verse. So sometimes but it gives you an idea of all of these things are related to what this verse is talking about. But it's nice to have, again, the Talmud sources that are available to you, and you've got them here. You can also find Midrashic sources. You can also find legal sources. Again, not going to go through all this, but all of these are here. The main thing is, if you don't read Hebrew, pay attention to the EN mark here, because that tells you that it is in English. Although, and it's getting better, I'll point this out very quickly. Even if something is not in English, so there's no commentary there at all. Let's go here to well, let's see here. Okay, so that's kind of a long one, but so you do have this option as well. So let's just, let's see how this works. So you can highlight a portion, and after you highlight it, you get this. Click on it, and Google will translate into the English. It's not as accurate as it could be, but it's getting better. So you can actually read the Hebrew then with Google Translate, or if you have another translation program, you can work with that. So even that is available here on Sefaria. Again, can't say enough good. This is an incredible site, but we're going to leave it there. And I just want you to see that all of these resources are here for you to use in terms of study, and it's important to make yourself available to those things, and to really work with them and see how they come together, and make things easy for you to learn, and that's the goal as we put this together. So that's what I want to say primarily right now. In our next video, we'll take a look at some different ways to study Torah, and in our final video, I'll share my own personal Torah journal with you and give you some idea of how you might set up your own to do that. So I hope you'll join me for that, for the subsequent videos. Again, I apologize for the length, but you can break it up, and I just wanted to get through this because I think it's important for everyone to at least understand the incredible need for each of us, Jew and non-Jew alike, to study Torah. For Yeshiva B'nai Noach, I'm Tom Averna. Shalom.